Hello, hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Reese and I talk about books and writing. And in today's video, I'm sharing my top 4 books, I think 4? Yeah, 4 books that most intrigued me from the International Booker Prize longlist. That list was announced a couple weeks ago, and I'll link to it. There's some great interviews there and some excerpts from all of the books as well. I reference that a lot in here. And I'm talking about the 4 that caught my eye. They really do all sound great, and I encourage you to check it out if you are interested after hearing this video, or even right now. For starters, quick primer on what the International Booker Prize is. It's the sister award to the Booker Prize, which is an annual literary award in the English-speaking world, judging the best works of fiction written in English and published in the UK and Ireland. A group of judges determines the winners, the books are submitted by publishers, that's how that works. And the Booker International is also an annual award for fiction, but it's for fiction that has been translated into English and published in the UK and Ireland. Also, same judging, etc. Basically, yes, it's for works originally published in a language other than English and then translated into English. There are 13 books on the long list this year. 3 are debut books, which is cool, and 8 of that 13 are the first English language publications, which is also really cool. I'm drawn to works of translated fiction, especially in the past few years as I've widened my reading horizons. I grew up in an English-speaking world, and a lot of what we see is and read and hear, a lot of art, you know, books, film, music, it's originally in English. It's coming from English-speaking parts of the world, and I want to read stories and watch films of people who have a different perspective. I mean, unfortunately, I only speak English, so translated fiction is my way of getting to read these stories. And also, the work of translation is vital and important and an art in itself, and it's awesome to recognize the work of translators in this International Booker Prize, because actually, not that it's all about the prize, but there is a monetary award given to the winner, and that is split evenly, I believe, between the author and the translator, which is super cool. Okay, let's go, my top 4. Ooh, this was really hard. These aren't in any particular order, but I saved my favorite for last. Anyways, like I said, this was very hard to narrow this down because they all sound amazing. I kind of half paid attention to the Booker Prize and the International Booker Prize in the past. If I saw it on a book cover, it would make me consider buying that book more. But now I recognize, for me as somebody who is really into reading and talking about books, it's like a built-in, hey, here's a bunch of books that you're probably gonna add to your TBR, so that's cool for me. Anyways, yeah, let's get into them. First book to talk about is Eurotrash by Christian Kracht, translated by Daniel Bowles, originally published in German. This is described as a semi-autobiographical novel. A middle-aged writer takes his spiky 80-year-old mother, recently discharged from a mental institution, on a road trip, where they can no longer avoid delving into the darkest truths about their pasts. This is a book that talks about money, class, privilege, the art market, probably a lot more things. It sounds intriguing to me. Asked how he wrote Eurotrash, Kracht says, "I usually begin and write everything in one go until done. There are no drafts or revisions or outlines or plotting or anything like that. I guess what I wanted most was to find a humorous side to my mother's pain and trauma, and to those decades of Swiss silence. The description also mentions his mother being haunted by her father, who was an ardent supporter of Nazism. Yeah. That sounds dark. A lot of pain, a lot of trauma. It's described as tragicomic, and I love darkly funny, so I've added this to my library holds. I don't know what number I am in the list and when I'll get this book, but it'll be a pleasant surprise when it shows up. I think I mentioned this, but one thing that I would definitely point you to is that Booker website, lots of information about each book, and also there's like a pretty good interview with most of the authors, and and the translators too, and I found it pretty fascinating to hear how the books came to be and the inspiration, which you'll hear in, when I talk about some of the other books, because I'm always interested in that. Okay, next book that caught my eye was Under the Eye of the Big Bird by Hiromi Kawakami and translated by Asa Yoneda, originally published in Japanese. Condensed version of the description: an inventive and immersive speculative fiction novel about a future in which humans are nearing extinction. Love that. Set in the distant future, some children are made in factories, some get nutrients from light and water like plants, and humanity's survival depends on their interbreeding and with other alien beings. A meditation on the qualities that make us human, which is one of my favorite things to ponder. Meditation on the qualities that make us human. Each of the chapters are separated by eons. That's really interesting. This book spans a large amount of time, sounds like. Kawakami is one of Japan's most popular contemporary novelists, and I'm interested to read this. I read the excerpt, and it sounds like kind of like straightforward. It reminded me of The Factory. The writing style reminded me of The Factory, which I read last year, which I really enjoyed, and it's kind of that same like speculative fiction vibe. A physical copy is not available at my library yet, and the paperback version of this book is not available until September. So I think I'm gonna wait on reading this one, buying it. We'll see if I happen across it at a bookstore and I'm feeling adventurous. But Strange Weather in Tokyo is also written by Kawakami, and that was available at my library, so I put that on my holds, and I will hopefully pick that one up soon. I think the writing style is a little different, but something about this feels very Jeff VanderMeer to me. Specifically, I'm thinking of the book Borne, which I just was talking about with my husband, because it's a favorite of his, and we'll see. I'm interested to read this one and see if I know what I'm talking about, or I totally don't. So don't quote me on that. Yeah, the next book that caught my eye was There's a Monster Behind the Door by Gaëlle Bélem, translated by Karen Fleetwood and Laëtitia Saint-Loubert, originally published in French. This book is set in a 1980s reunion. I could say that in a French accent, but I won't. Where a little girl makes a bid for escape from her sadistic parents' reign of terror and turns to school for salvation, chronicling the downfall of a family by one of their own. Rich in the history of the island's customs and superstitions, and driven by a wild, offbeat humor, It satirizes the very notion of freedom available in this French territory and maybe the act of writing itself. I love a satire. I love an offbeat humor. This is her first novel, which is totally cool. In the interview, she described her inspirations like a cocktail having several ingredients, including music, a 1996 cynical rap song about prison, and a spoonful of cinema, she says. She talks about how the stylized violence in movies like Kill Bill and Old Boy and the social injustices seen in Snowpiercer made a big impression on her. I love Bong Joon-ho, so love that. Just saw Mickey 17. I'm not going to talk about that here. But yeah, okay, what drew me to this book, other than like the dark satire and offbeat humor part, when I read that interview and she's talking about her inspirations, I love those movies. Old Boy and Snowpiercer. Kill Bill is fine. Not a huge Tarantino person. So yeah, but hearing how all these things roll together just makes me want to see what she made of those inspirations. She also says, I wanted to write something special, a book that was a scream, a punch, a shot of strong alcohol that surprises you and that you don't recover from straight away. I like literature that delivers a punch, even if my text is very poetic at the same time. Yeah, I want to give this one a shot. A poetic gut punch? Adding this one to my list. It's not available at my library, and it's sold out on Blackwell's. I'll find a way. I might have to wait a bit to read this one, but I'll see. I'm curious to know the process of requesting a book at my library. I've never done that before. Maybe I'll ask around and see. And the last book that especially intrigued me from the long list is On the Calculation of, Volume 1 by Solvej Balle. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm probably not. Apologies. Translated by Barbara J. Haveland, originally published in Dutch. This book is part of a septology, a series of 7 books, and the series is still being written. I think this book, the first, was originally published in 2020. The description reads, every morning she wakes up to the 18th of November. As Tara approaches her 365th 18th of November, she can't shake the feeling that somewhere underneath the surface of this day, there's a way to escape. That description and what is on the website about this book definitely gave me I Who Have Never Known Men vibes. And then I heard another YouTuber, Cass Krug, who has read this book, said reminds her of that. She compared it to that. The prose also simple, straightforward. What it talks about, the themes. Also in Cass's video, she mentioned that it talks about writing. The main character is a bookseller. One of the judges said a profound meditation on love, connectedness, and what it means to exist. This one just sounds like it was made for me. I'm very excited about it. The author said she got the idea to write this book back in 1987, but the idea seemed kind of foolish to her at first, especially after the movie Groundhog's Day came out. But the idea just kept coming back to her, and the only way out was for her to write it, and the idea just ended up generating so much material that she just wanted to explore it, which I love that. I love it, especially knowing like the idea came to her back then, and I think she first started writing it, or like the first draft or notes on it, in the year 2000, and then published it in 2020. That to me is like very inspirational, that like the seed of an idea is something you think about and it just won't leave you, and maybe you don't rush and write it down and, you know, start writing it and churn out 50,000 words in a month or even a year or even 5 years, you know, like it just sits and marinates, and yeah, that gives me hope. That gives me a lot of hope. The first two of these books have been translated into English, and I'm kind of into it. I'm not a huge series person, but for this, I will make an exception. At least the first book, right? Those are the 4 that I'm most intrigued by from the long list. I mean, they're all good. Honestly, all 13 sound interesting. And it would just take one person telling me, I read this and it's great and here's why and I think you should read it, and I'll probably check out another one outside of these 4, you know, faster than I would normally. If you've read any of the 13, let me know. I'm so curious. Or if you want to read any of them, also let me know. Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of a theme in these books, which I'm starting to see crystallize as like what I'm most drawn to, and obviously that makes sense. It would be like dark tragicomedies, darkly funny, satirical, speculative fiction, and just like weird, bizarre situations. That pretty much describes the 4 of these in a nutshell. Excited to dive into some of these books at some point. I will definitely let you know when I read them. I'll share my thoughts, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.